What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brandon Tassif is your ex drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. It used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by guests. This week is no exception. All the way from Madison, Wisconsin, Tom.
Hey, yeah.
What's up?
Wisconsin, man. Yeah, we're the professionals. Yeah, it's
You guys know how to do it out there.
that's at least I used to, go throughout my life saying, if you need a coach, I'm your guy. Like we got this, crazy. Yeah.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on. Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. Anything you got going on, the book, all the stuff.
Oh man, I mean personally, yeah, and well, I mean, I don't really have plug the book so much anymore. Um, it was a New York Times bestseller, of course.
Yes, it was.
We
I
know
read
that.
it. Before any of this ever happened,
I,
I got into reading books about comedians and stuff like that when I first got into comedy like 15 years ago. And so I read it. And then when Megan reached out, I was like, this is crazy.
yeah, well, so's my my journey. I wrote it. Um, it was biography of obviously my little brother Chris Farley. And I may have been sober, but I wasn't in recovery. So I was going out and doing all this great advocacy work, but telling somebody else's story.
Mm-hmm.
And that felt good. But and the book obviously also like that was done really uniquely in the sense that we interviewed all these people in Chris's life, throughout his life, here in Wisconsin, summer camp, Marquette, Second City, SNL, and then out in Hollywood, uh, and which was nice because I really got to see my brother through their eyes, and I was amazed. It's like, oh, they knew him as well as I did, and um, if I had just done it just wrote a big biography of my brother, I would have probably thrown in stuff that thankfully I've been dealing with uh in the years since, all sorts of, garbage, resentment and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So that was my first kind of step in really being able to kind of separate the addictive addicted Chris to this brother I love, and that's a gift I got from this um process of the book. But and then it started me on my own journey. But yeah, it's called Chris Farley Show. But the really fun thing, the neat thing is that I just sold the book rights to it, so it's going to be a movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting, really great team behind it. Again, everyone asks me these movie questions is like, I don't even have answers to book questions like yet. Like, I don't know. Um, but what I'm really excited about is that obviously it'll be a fun movie, sad also, but
Yeah.
it'll have all the themes that have become part of my work, my recovery, talking about, addiction and recovery. So I can't wait to use the movie to support the stuff that I've come to do, that has become my life. And part of that is my own recovery journey, but part of that also now is where I work now at recovery.com, which is a startup in Madison, Wisconsin, where Chris and I grew up, um, that helps people not only find the right um, treatment and programs for them, but opens up this whole kind of recovery world that's beyond. People think of like treatment and rehab as like, "Yeah, and that's it, right?" No, it's
I
rest
mean,
of life. That's the beautiful thing about it is, so I used to be an advocate for, addiction and treatment, but now it's like, no, it's recovery because I get it now.
mhm. Yeah, because that was my issue. I remember I went to my first meeting at 22 because I was
Wow.
when I was playing college football, I was always the guy that when we would have parties, I'd go crazy. It was very, Belushi and
Yeah.
Animal House kind of thing, but I also still played football. But once or twice a week when we would have a party, I'd go crazy. And then when I stopped playing football because I got my eighth concussion and they're like, "Yeah, you can't play anymore." I was just like, "Oh, I can just party all the time now." And I had a friend of mine working in restaurants who also was in college. And when you're 22 and another 20 something year old comes to you and goes, "Hey, maybe you might want to check this thing out. It's called AA." That's when you're like, maybe there's an issue. But I remember I ended up going to rehab at 25. And to your point, I was just like, "Oh, I'll just go to rehab and then I'll be fine. And then everything will be fixed." And that's not how it worked out. And it was very
Yeah.
eye opening that it's like, I promptly got sober at 30, but it was very eye opening to be like, oh, it's not like a quick fix, go for 3 months and then everything's all good. It's a life. It's a whole life.
Yeah. And I was fortunate in some respects that I saw Chris go through that himself, coming in and out like I'm fixed now, right? Or at least going in for the wrong reasons,
Hmm.
going in to please people.
Yep.
Okay, I'll go, luckily he had the resources to do it as many times as he wanted. So, or to like keep his job and all that kind of stuff. But then he'd come back and like, I'm fixed now. I think this is the first time I really thought about this. He probably equated treatment to like what we as Catholics, confession. It's
Oh
like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm done, right? I can like,
I said my Hail Marys. I'm good.
yeah, I'm good. Like that's forgiven. Like I can start over. Like no, that's not how it works.
So I wanted to ask you, because you have you there Chris, and then you also have another brother, correct? Kevin, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Kevin. And if you know, yeah, he's somewhere out there. He doesn't talk to the family,
Okay.
but
Well, the
we have
reason I
one of
bring
those.
it up is because growing up in the Midwest because my family, I grew up in Florida, but my family is everyone in my family is from Ohio, and they all have brothers and sisters. So in my experience, it was always when we get together, it's a party, like everyone's
Yeah.
drinking, everyone's having a good time. So was that similar to your experience growing up in Wisconsin?
Yeah. Well, and it goes deeper than that, and we can delve into this, but our coping mechanism for all of the for even for all the painful stuff in life, but also for the overly, joyful things in life, which scared us just as much as the other, is we used humor and we laughed. And
Hmm.
so, um, as long as we stayed in that space and laughed, um, we were, we were not in danger of like hitting other like emotions that we were uncomfortable with. So, and so to stay in that humor space, yeah, drinking really and it helped that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we just loved being there. And again, when people like we're ready to pack it in for the night, or let's not go so hard this weekend. I'm like, oh no 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 no. That's not like no, then because then these other things will, reality and other emotions will have to be face and real. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're
When
not
that
doing
stuff
that.
started to creep in, our
Yeah.
default growing up, and this is something I've talked about on this show before, and it was interesting because with my family, everyone always had something that was more important than drinking. Like, for my dad, it was work. For my older sister, it was work. For my twin sister, it was her family. So they all had like, we could all drink with the best of them. Like, we would all, like, it was a thing, but everyone had something to where they had something that, this makes perfect sense if you're in recovery. We always talk about like, it became the most important thing in my life. And for me, I didn't have that thing. Drinking was the most important thing in my life. So I used to always think growing up, oh, this is just what we do. Like we're a drinking family. We're Eastern
Yeah.
European. To your point, we drink to celebrate, we drink to mourn, we drink to have a good time, we drink to have a bad time. And we would like drink just to stay. I love how you put it, just to stay in that pocket of like, everything's good right now. We're all having a
Yep.
good time right now. And I remember when, like I said, when I stopped playing football and like college was getting harder, I just was like, oh no, it's just drinking. Like that's all. Like I don't have anything else. It was just drinking for me, which is kind
Yeah.
of what made me realize, like, like this might be a problem. For you, when was the first time that you experienced that whole like we're drinking, we're having a good time? Like were you a teenager? Were you in college? Like when was the first time that you were like, oh, this is fun?
Um, Interesting. I guess it was in high school. First of all, drinking age was 18 when I was in high school. So, and that was the first time when, there was this, push to like, you got to talk to girls now, dude. You're in high
Yeah.
school. I'm like, uh-oh. And so I like that I panicked. So drinking got me through. It's just those uncomfortable things in life. It was really I drank for those reasons. So it wasn't really, hey, this is really fun. It was like this is making this uncomfortable situation a little bit more tolerable, I guess. But I guess and I've said this before, it wasn't until I really got to college. See, when you're living under your parents' roof, like you've got those are the bumper rails are up,
Hmm.
everything's fine. You know, you're not drinking as much, or you're, just doing it in stealth but college
You have
and
like a barrier because there's other
yes,
consequences that, yeah, you're
yep.
very aware of.
But all of a sudden, when it's like you're on your own to figure it out, and like, and the way I figured it out was like every night's Friday night. Did I get that right? Because um, like, like senior in college, I just in this apartment full of way, way overachievers, really smart people. They're all just amazingly like motivating type people, but they were all on different schedules. So there was always like exam time. There always somebody like done with an exam, like, oh, I'm finally done. Who wants to get a drink? Who wants to go to the pub? And like, right here, dude.
I will.
I got you. And then
I got time.
and then the next night it'd be somebody else, like, I'm done with my exams. Who wants to, like, yeah, you don't have to finish that sentence. I got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Georgetown.
Oh, okay.
So,
So yeah, that's a big school. Yeah.
yeah, no, there was like, yeah, I mean, and that's a sad thing is like, obviously I was smart enough to be there and get in there and be there. Um, but I came with this attitude, like, I'd be a CEO someplace by now if no, I don't know, probably not, but,
If it
um,
makes you feel better, I've had several comedians on here who are in their like late 20s, early 30s who went to big school like Georgetown, Columbia, Penn, and,
um,
and they're all telling dick jokes and stuff. And so it's like, all right, so everyone's got their own path kind of a thing.
every school has to have like I was Georgetown's, and that
Yeah.
they're very proud of that. No, I don't know. Probably not.
It is. I like what you said though, because that's something I think that goes really undervalued or like overlooked is the drinking to kind of make an uncomfortable situation more comfortable because that
Yeah.
was my entire experience because growing up my nuclear family, my immediate family all drank and had a good time. But then I had people in my life like my ex-stepdad who would drink and become very like violent. And
Yeah.
I remember as a younger kid being like, "Oh, I'm not going to drink because it's a poison. Like that's what happens." And I was
Yeah.
like straight edge all through middle school. I also didn't have any friends, so it was easy. Um, and then I remember trying alcohol for the first time. And I've talked about this before, but my anxiety went away. My depression kind of went away as a kid. And I was like, oh, this is awesome because I don't feel the way I felt 10 minutes ago anymore. And I remember I talk about this on stage, but all through college, if I knew if we met through a mutual friend, I was like Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire, man. I was hot. But if I
Yeah.
didn't know you, I would not speak to you. It didn't matter if you were a cute girl or a friend of a friend of a friend. Like if I was at a party, I would sit in a corner and like by myself. But as soon as I had a couple of drinks, I was like, "Oh, we're having a good time. Like we're having fun." And it made that awkwardness less awkward. And that was kind of my motivating factor to be like, "Oh, I need this all the time or else I'm just a weirdo in the corner."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't. It's interesting. Like, if I had to put it in those terms, I guess I would drink because, again, I was surrounded by like either like gorgeous women or really smart, high achieving guys, and so I was like this. I'll show you. This is how it's supposed to get done. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is being real. This is fun. Real. You guys are not fun, and I would just come on, just full steam. Um, and for them, it was a kind of a break, maybe from their kind of,
Mhm.
no, the
The
life that,
monotony of day-to-day life. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's the noise. This is like that's how you're supposed to have life is that way, not
Yeah.
your way. But so it was humorous. It was I was a novelty, but um from my side of the, where I was, the lens I was looking through, I was like, no, this is the way you're supposed to be all the time. And, it was a break for them. What was really interesting, I came across this kind of analogy recently, and it really defines a lot of it. It is, I was trying to put this person out there that I thought people wanted me to be, and I
100%.
needed to be, and I wasn't comfortable with it, but I'm like, okay. And and we'll get deep. Like, in order to be that person, I had to control everyone around me. Like,
Yep.
you've got to be this. My family's got to be this way. My boss has to give me that job, not the one I have, because I got to be this person. And I realized that, and I know this was true for Chris, um, that I could be, or Chris could be in the middle of a room, a bar, obviously, bar, yeah,
Obviously.
we'd be in the middle of a bar, surrounded by people, center of attention, making everyone laugh, and yet not feel more like we were standing on the surface of the moon.
Hmm.
But like from the outside, people are like, that guy owns this room. He's got everyone in the palm of his hand. And I knew deep down that like, but that's not me. Why do I not feel comfortable doing this is because I'm not showing it's not a connection because they're not connecting to a real person, which
Yeah.
is me. And I struggled with that for the longest time. It was like couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, it is. I used to be called to get togethers because I was the same way as what you're describing. Is like I would be the guy, especially after football, where if you finished a final or handed in a paper or finished a test, it was call Brennan because he was ready to go at all times. And I remember once all my friends started graduating, they would like have these get-togethers with people from their new job, and they would call me in almost like the pinch hitter. They'd be like, call Brennan because he'll walk around with a bottle and get all these people to do shots and loosen up and relax, like literally like a party starter. But the problem with that is if there's 10 people at the party, they're all doing one shot, but I'm doing 12 because I'm doing it with everybody and then I'm throwing in a couple extra on top of it. And a novelty is what it was. Like I was just like there to be like the entertainment. And then after like 15 of those rounds, they would like send me downstairs, turn on the TV, put my handle of liquor next to the bed, and be like, okay, you can just hang out down here now. Cause I was starting to get out of control. And to your point, it was just like, like, I'm not, this isn't me. So, like, when I would walk
Yeah.
in, it was Brennan's here. But again, I'd be surrounded by people and feel so very alone. Like, no, this isn't what I wanted. Like, this isn't what
Ah,
I thought I would be doing. And then it got even sadder because people are graduating and getting jobs. And I'm like, a fifth year senior, like, we're still doing this, right? Calling people on a Tuesday, like, hey, you want to go out?
it's funny you say that because I actually at Georgetown did a fifth year, and I was like, hey, Farley's, like, here like I'm still here, man, and we had the best senior year because I was this, he stayed one more year, like
Yeah.
what a novelty. And I went through that senior year, like, yeah, it's yeah.
When did you because I want to ask you obviously about your journey through recovery and figuring out, like you said earlier, the difference between going to treatment and then actually living in recovery. But when was the time where it clicked in your head? Because again, for me, it was around
Yeah.
22 when I had someone come up and be like, "Hey, maybe you should check out a meeting." When did it click in your head where you were like, "Oh, this might be too much"?
Um, so for me, it was probably 23. No, I'm
Okay.
kidding. No, no. Are you kidding me?
One year better than you,
Like,
kid.
yeah, I'm not competitive. So no, it was when I started to have kids,
Okay.
you know, the first thought was like, it wasn't about me so much. It was like I don't want them growing up in this environment that I grew up in. It wasn't just my family, it was Wisconsin, it was everything. And like it was just so focused on drinks. So I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna put them through this. So for most of their youth, there were chunks in my life when they were little that I was sober,
Mhm.
4 years and then 5 years, um, because I just didn't want them seeing this, focus on booze. Um, but I also thought that that's all I needed to do. The hardest thing I ever did in my life. I gave up drinking, and yet, but I was still having these, train wrecks. I'm like, I don't get it. And I would go into a meeting. I'm like, think I'm supposed to go to like meetings, and it, it was it was almost like our family growing up. When you have somebody like Chris in your family, it was easy for us to point to Chris and like, well, we're not that bad.
Yep.
I guess we're okay. And I would go into meetings and listen to somebody share the story. I'm like, that guy drinks more than me. Like that person takes drugs and they drink. Like I don't belong here. Um,
Went through the
it,
same exact thing. Yes.
yeah. And the sad thing is as a family, not only did we, it's, we got some room to, we're not there yet, but we also couldn't really help Chris as much as we should have as a family because we were fearful of being honest about our own issues, and we didn't want to do that. So we're like, we helped Chris as much as we could without, you know, saying, us too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's a really good point. Because obviously, coming from a family in my situation where everyone likes to have a drink and stuff, it is an odd thing when I'm telling people in my family, hey, I'm going to rehab. It's kind of almost "Well, you're not that bad. Like you still have a job. Like what are you talking about?
Yeah, they don't want to hear that from like,
Yeah. What do you mean? We're fine. Everyone's
yeah,
fine.
this is good. Yeah.
And it was fascinating because between the first time I ever went to a meeting until I got sober at 30, I remember sitting in and listening and being like, "Oh, that guy lost his family, that guy lost his house, that guy again to your point, that guy's doing drugs like heroin and cocaine, like I'm not." And then it would always happen where then I would go out for a while. Then the next time I came in, I had one more of those experiences.
Yeah.
Where now when I came back, I was drinking and doing drugs. And then I would go back out. And then when I came back, drinking, doing drugs, and now my fiance left me. And then I would go back out. And then when I came back, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
at
But
30, when I woke up in a hospital being told by a doctor should have been dead a couple hours ago, I was like, oh, I've hit all those things. Like I've hit all the things that I said I wasn't close to when I first came in.
There's only one more box to
Yeah,
check. We don't want to check that one.
Yeah,
just
between
yet.
jails,
Yeah.
institutions, there's only one more box I got to
Yeah.
check. And I was like, oh, man, I guess it's over, guys.
But I was, as I said, my barometer was drinking, and I said, I'm not there yet. And it wasn't until this last time, um, that I went in and started to listen because I was brought in by somebody I really, trusted. And it wasn't about drinking. I was listening to people's story and not hearing how much they drank, but or what substance they use. I'm like, I've had broken relationships like that person. I've had job loss like that person. I'm like, oh, this is what it is. This is not about drinking, not drinking. This is about all the other stuff that you work on, but the only price of admission is you can't drink ever again. I'm like, you need that clarity that sobriety gives you in order to work on all these things. I'm like, oh, that's what this is. Okay, got it.
So when was it that you started? Because a lot of your background and what you work on is advocacy for recovery and things like that. When was that? When did that pivot happen?
Yeah. So as I said, for the longest time, I was telling somebody else's story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's using Chris's name. I got all this, I had built a brand and all this, I thought all the stuff that I wanted to, I was successful in doing the stuff. And but again, it was one summer where it was on the downside. I was like, actually, it was a really fun summer, but we don't want to talk about it. But I was like really managing like my drinking. I'd be like, if I leave this party right now, I can get home safely, which is already you're
A
like
whole other,
deluding yourself. Like,
yeah.
yeah, you can drive a car, but like I'd have to plot my way home to avoid detection, and then I'd get home and it'd be like 10 o'clock. And like, well, you know, then the cabinet would open and I'd be alone watching either like some movie and just overly stimulated myself. It's either like some minorly funny movie that I think is hysterical or a, very, some drama that I'm crying about. Yeah, I was like,
Oh yeah.
what do you like? And then wake up the next morning like, oh, this is bad. I had a whole summer of that. And so I thought, this is nuts. I'm smart enough to know that like I'm trying to manage something that's not really manageable. So I did the only thing I knew what to do. I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and luckily for me, I had this friend of mine who I had done. Ran a clinic here in Wisconsin, Madison, that I had done some work with her teen uh, um, outpatient clinics, outpatient clients, and she just happened to call me up. I hadn't talked to her for a while, and she goes, "How you doing?" And I'm like, proudly tell her, I haven't had a drink in 4 months, um, and expecting a little bit more applause than I got. But she's like, "That's great. That's good for you." She goes, "We should get coffee." And I was like, you know what? I'd love to get coffee. I need that connection. I need, yeah, let's have coffee. And she goes, great. Meet me um, this Saturday at 9 o'clock in the basement of the Presbyterian Church. I'm like, God damn it. Like I know what's going
I know
on
what
here.
coffee's there.
Yeah, all right. But this was this woman who had said how I know, and I tried to help her help so many people in our community. I'm like, how do you say no to that person and she knew when I was drinking, when I wasn't, and she accepted me anyway, and I trusted her. And she was the first person, the first higher power that I just surrendered to. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll see you at 9 o'clock. And I went in and I, you know, very quickly, I progressed a little quicker than I did because because she was sitting there watching me. But but it was like, yeah, yeah. I'll be honest. I stepped in again using my humor. I had this audience and I used my humor, and I was very uncomfortable. So I would do stuff like, you know, read chapter 5, how it works. Like, I'll do that, and I'll read it in a British accent, and like, and everyone in the room was like, okay, okay. I'm like, this is funny
Because
stuff. Come on,
they all know exactly what's happening. They
what's
all
going
know.
on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all know.
And then I did like something my brothers told me about. They used to go to meetings out in LA with Chris, and that's one of the funniest things he would do is be in a meeting, and you go, "I'm Chris, and he's an alcoholic," and I thought that was hysterical. So I did that. I was like, "My name's Tom, and he's an alcoholic." Well, that's what he said, and like still no laugh. I'm like, "Geez, this is good. How is this
I'm
not?"
bombing here, guys.
Like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, there's something else going on here. And combine that with like the first couple times going into these meetings, like, oh man, the rest of my life with these schmucks, like, oh, this is horrible. And I realized very quickly that when I kind of let my guard down, stop, you know, using it as a audience, I'm like, God, I hope so the rest of my life. It's like I started to feel like this sense of belonging and this connection that I had never felt anywhere else in my entire life. So
Yeah, it's fascinating to me because when I first came into the rooms, I was very similar in the sense of like deflecting, using humor and like, and it's so because now being in and out of the rooms for as long as I have, and now coming up on 7 years sober in May, it is interesting to go to a meeting and like hear that. Because when I was
yeah,
younger, I used to be like, ha ha ha, like I got you. Uh, but now being older and like being like, obviously in recovery, at least just for today, it's one of those things where you hear it and it almost is like nails on a chalkboard when I hear it now. Cause I'm like, man, you got so much stuff you got to work out that you're trying to hide from, right? Like
yeah,
whenever I hear that deflection or like
yep,
that kind of stuff in a meeting, I'm like, man, you got a lot of work to do. Or the other big thing too is when I hear someone say, well, my wife, my girlfriend, my
yeah,
significant other, I'm like, no, no, no,
no, no,
no,
exactly.
no.
Or my favorite is, um, I had a tough week. My dog died, and I really thought about picking up a drink. I'm like, really? For a fucking dog? I'm sorry. A dog? Like, this is your surprise. Like, this is like, how are you not? You would put, well, obviously you're not putting much at risk, or because you didn't risk much to begin with. So,
Yeah.
that's I hear that. I'm like, it's still about drinking for you. Um,
Yeah, and that's the other fascinating thing because I have now because I still work like a regular job to supplement obviously everything with you obviously experienced this with Chris and everything and writing a book yourself, but you like when there's other stuff chasing a dream as it were, like you still got rent still due. I can't call my landlord and be like, hey,
yeah,
no, I'm trust me, I got a show at the Comedy Store, things are going to work
yeah,
out, all right. They're like, okay, where's the rent? So at my regular job, it's fascinating because people will reach out to me and be like, "Hey, my significant other's drinking a little too much. Can you like help?" And I always say the same thing. I always say I would love to help, but they need to come to me. Like this isn't a my girlfriend is telling me, so I'm going to reach out to I'm like that's not how it works. And it's
yeah,
kind of sad because it's like, okay, I understand. Like I see the seeds, I understand what's happening, but all I can do is they know that I'm sober. They know that I work a program. They know I'm here for them, but that's all I can do. I can't
yeah,
force them to do it because you think your significant other is drinking too much. Like that's not how I've had friends, obviously, and a lot of us have had friends or people we love like for lack of a better term, lose to this disease
Yeah.
because it was for somebody else all the time.
You know what's interesting is I thought that same thing too, and I got tired of like, okay, yeah, of people coming up to me is like, oh, I'm like, okay. And then then I worked actually for business development for a treatment center.
Mm-hmm.
And when people would say, you know, like where should we go, or even my treatment, rehab place would say like person wasn't right for us. Where should we go? And I would give names. I'm like, oh, try this place over here and try this. It just kicking the can down the road a bit. And like, but I don't know this person that needs help. Um, and I was always kind of uncomfortable with that anyway. But like, I feel now I've got to cheat, and is that now I work for this this digital resources, this recovery.com, where I've been going, I still get the calls, but people are like, what do I do? It's like, I don't know, but I do know. Like, you know, get on our website, find, first of all, there's resources there, like educate yourself, get
Mm-hmm.
some agency back and take some control of your life. Stop asking everyone else for help, and, but then
Yes, sir. Yeah.
find a
Oh,
place,
yeah. I'm very aware.
you know, but then that gives me this opportunity. It's like, now, okay, now that you've done that, like, here's where I can help you in these other things. Like you mentioned, you're going to go through intervention with this, your spouse. I'm like, do you know what that's like? Because that's going to have an effect on you too. And like, here's your role. And I get to, like, shift that question of what do I do, like, over here to like, now let me tell you what's waiting on the other side in this life and recovery. Let me paint a better picture of that, because I know if we just talk about where do I go on treatment, that person's still thinking, yeah, and then I get this life that I don't want afterwards. And I'm like, let me let me tell you about that life. Let me give you this resource. It just seems, it feels much more like I'm really of value and helping.
Well,
So
let's talk about it. So the site, the recovery.com. So it's not only it's obviously you're based in Wisconsin, but it's a site
it's cool.
for okay.
Yeah, it's global. Yeah,
So
even.
explain it to the listener. So it on the site you can find different resources, you can find things in their area and all that, like intergroups and things
We
like that.
well, what's interesting is it started as a matching people to treatment. It's very patient focused.
Hmm.
It's like, what are you looking for? I'm looking for something in the Midwest, 12-step based. Um but like I'm a executive of a company. I'd like to be able to use my phone once in a while. Okay, you put in, and I've got this kind of weird insurance. Like, put it all in there. Boom, it spits out. Here you go.
Oh yeah,
Here's
this has got
here's some
everything.
options. Yeah, and so, like, it was great for that treatment, kind of, getting the right person in the right treatment. But this is where I came in, and I thought this was really neat, and I loved that it was Madison, Wisconsin based. But just before I came in, and I sat down with the two founders, the CEOs, and they said, "Yeah, a year ago it was a different name, and they bought the domain name recovery.com, and um, for a lot of money, they're like, should we do it? And, later we're a startup, but they took the risk and said, yeah." And both of these guys who are not in recovery said, like, and then it hit us. Oh my God, we just bought the domain name recovery.com. We have to own that and honor it and be that. I'm like, and now you have to employ me, because that I love
Yeah.
what you just said. Um, this whole thing of like, this is where it really is of value. And so, and it's also, there's, the money's in treatment, not in
Hmm.
recovery.
Yeah.
So the help and the resources for people, like, that's where is really there. And so all of a sudden, it became, uh, and we're trying to build as rapidly as we can, uh, uh, not just treatment, but um, outpatient, peer recovery, sober living, all that stuff, and not just substance use, but mental health. All just the whole. Imagine like everyone's recovering from something. We like to hopefully be this kind of trip advisor for like where like how exotic are you? Like, do you want to go?
Yeah. Well, and this
We
is
got the place.
perfect because
Yeah, really.
I just pulled up the site now and immediately it says, using my IP address, uh, centers near you, who
Yeah.
accepts insurance, what's verified. And this is awesome, man, because there's so many times where I just looked at, I'll never forget when I realized I needed treatment. I looked at the back of my insurance card because I was still
Mm,
on my dad's insurance and it had a number for mental health. And I at the time my mom was a nurse for a long time, so I called her and I go, I don't know what to do. And she was the one who said, look at the back of the insurance card, it'll say mental health, call that number. And that's what I did. But again, I'm a 24-year-old kid, like I
yeah.
have no idea what I'm doing. And they're like, oh, well, we have this treatment center there and this over here for this and that. And I was so overwhelmed and kind of just paralyzed by fear and not knowing. Having this as a resource, like just looking at it is all, because like there's so many questions that people ask me. And sometimes I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And on the site, it's got everything. And you can just like click, like you said, it's like a trip advisor, like, I want
Yeah.
this mixed with that, mixed with this. And then it just gives you
There you go.
where you need
Yeah.
to go.
On top of like all this, like these articles and not of people telling their stories, articles on like, what does my insurance, cover? What does insurance generally cover? What is people are talking to me about DBT therapy. What is it? Like, educate yourself and understand it a little bit more. It's is you know, fear, stops us from almost on every,
Yep.
and that's why we just try to lower our fear. And one of the things that really lowers fear more than anything else is knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Just you have a question that you don't have an answer to, and you're fearful about it. So let's answer those questions. This site does in that respect. I think, as I love to say, recovery exists on the other side of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And that's, yeah, it's 100% true because fear is what kept me
yeah,
for so long from getting sober. And I mean, still to this day, it's something that I struggle with, obviously. But there are times where I'll look up, like I'll talk to my sponsor and he'll be like, maybe you should hit an in-person meeting. Like you do a lot of Zoom stuff.
yep.
Maybe go in person. And I'll look one up in New York and I'll be in Manhattan and I'll be like, boy, oh boy, I'm going today. And then I will be paralyzed standing outside the door. Like, I'm not going to know anybody here. They're not going to know me. I'm not going to know anything about them. And then as soon as I walk through the door, I'm like, oh, wait, this is just another me. Like, why was I so scared
Well, because
30 seconds ago? But I just
outside the
didn't know.
door, outside the door, you were alone and in isolation. You
Mhm.
were at your life. All of a sudden, like you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm alone. I'm isolated. Like that, it brings back all that stuff. You walk through that door, and all of a sudden, that connection, that feeling comes in. That everyone looks at you with this like sense of belonging. Like, oh man, it goes away
Yeah,
immediately.
instantly, and it's
Yeah.
so, and that's why I think the site is such a great resource. I want to talk to you about a couple of things because we've been talking about your brother Chris, and I want to know for you as a brother because I have siblings, and whenever I get something, like I said, I just got back from LA. I did a show at the Comedy Store, which is a big deal in the stand-up world. And my sisters have no idea what it is, but they know it's a big deal. So I'm getting, texts and calls and voicemails from my nieces like, congratulations, Uncle B. So when Chris gets SNL as a brother, are you like, this is awesome? This is the greatest thing ever?
Well, yeah. Oh, it's sort of. I mean, we grew up on it. Like
Yeah.
that was our thing. And that like. So I was living in New York. Chris came into town like, oh yeah, I'm gonna. And, everyone
Did you go to
talks.
New York right after Georgetown?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, not like maybe a half a year later. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, but
but that's where but that's where like the fun was. So I went to New York because like all my friends are there and we're having fun, but like no, they're actually starting their careers and doing stuff. And I'm like, it was a blast. I had a
I
blast
can
in here.
resonate with that so much. Where you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna stay in South Florida because this is where the fun is. It's like, no, man, this is where we all
yeah,
got jobs after
yeah.
college.
Yeah, I think I just put a down payment on a house. I'm like, excuse what? Like, what are you doing that for?
City
Like,
living, baby. What are we talking
how
about?
how are you doing that? Well, I've had a couple promotions. You got promotions? Oh, um, so yeah, but so Chris came in. Everyone talks about you've seen these like here's a tape YouTube of so and so's audition at SNL.
Oh yeah, I've heard
Chris
so many stories about the.
Chris didn't do that.
Oh
He did.
really?
No, he didn't have to audition. It was just come show up, spend the day with everyone, just kind of get, see if you mesh with everyone. It was he and Rock. They knew they were going to hire
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Chris and
Yes,
Chris.
yes, yes, yes.
And so they was just kind of there. And so I knew Chris was there all day long, just kind of hanging out. And then I got this call. He said, Tommy, you want to go to the show tonight? They said we can go to the show. I'm like, and it was just these two Wisconsin brothers so excited about it. Here, Chris is like almost like he's going to be in the next cast. And he's like, we're going to the show. Like,
I can just hear his voice too from everything I've
yeah,
watched so
yeah,
much about him. Just Tommy,
yeah, let's go. Get down here. Get down here
what are you
now.
doing? Come
Yeah.
on.
So I raced down there and we went to our first show and we sat. We didn't sit. We were in the green room, which is Lauren's office, kind of off the 8H, that had a sliding glass door right in front of the band. So, and it was Clapton, and I'm like,
Oh man.
this is insane. So we're sitting there listening. Like Clapton's right in front of us playing, and we're just like elbowing each other. Holy, can you believe it? And I was like, this is awesome because the guy in front of me is like, comes up to my chin.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is awesome. I'm seeing right over his head. And in the middle, all of a sudden I look next to him and I'm like, that looks like Edie Brickell. And I'm like, oh, she dates Paul Simon. And I'm like, and like I realize who I'm standing behind. And I'm like, oh man. And I'm like, and he was like, that was great. And he walks back in. I'm like, what just happened? Like, little did I know that those moments, that was now Chris's life.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is crazy. Couple years, couple of weeks later when he started on the show, I'm backstage waiting for him and he's going through this gauntlet, like, great show, great show. And this guy goes, great show, Chris. And I'm looking at the guy, this like really geeky looking guy standing next to this like supermodel that looks a lot like Paulina Portascova or whatever. I'm like, I go, Chris, you know who that was? I go, you know who that was? They just like shook your hand and he looks back and he's like, kind of looks at that guy from the Cars. I was like, yeah, it was. Like, yeah, Chris just like he didn't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
He just wanted to be fun. Like so, and that never stopped. It was always just just an
And
amazing
is he
time.
living with you at the time when because you said you had moved to New York? Is he living with you when he gets the call, like that first night when you guys go down there? Is he staying with
No,
you?
no, I was married by that time,
Oh, okay.
so that would have been awkward. But no, finding it, and that's another thing. It's just like my dad calling from Wisconsin. Can you help Chris find an apartment? It's like screw that. Like he's looking at nice places. I don't want to. That's no.
That goes back to what you were saying about other people getting promotions and stuff. When I have, because I've met so many people, especially through my girlfriend, because she's a professional and she knows other professionals. So it is interesting when like her brother, who like works for one of these big hedge funds as an accountant, is like, yeah, I'm looking for a place, and I'm like, you looking for a place and me looking for a place, not the same things.
I'm married, living in a studio.
Yeah.
So like, get away from
I'm like,
me.
we live in Astoria. You're looking at like,
Yeah.
42nd Street of dormant
Yeah.
apartments.
Oh man.
Not the same. Help
Not
Chris.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Your dad's like, help Chris find an apartment. And he calls you.
Like,
He's like, yeah, we're going to Hudson Yards. You're like, go to hell.
yeah,
I'm not
like
going.
Dad, I want to, but I'm gonna do something like bad. Yeah, like I'm gonna sabotage it somehow.
Yeah. So what was it like? Because are you going down there now? Because you're married, you're a professional. Are you going down there on Saturdays just to like hang out?
Yeah, when I could, yeah, the first couple of years before I left and moved out of the city, but
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it was good. As a matter of fact, like I would get these calls from Chris after a while. And it's like, you come to the show, and I'm like, ah, yeah, I think I was this Saturday. Who's playing? And he's like, I'm playing. Like you can't
Yeah.
like I'm playing like you like oh yeah
Oh God, that is
um
such because just as doing stand up for so long, I have people in my life who are very close with me. But same thing, I'll be like, "Hey, I'm doing this show like next weekend," and they'll be like, "Who's on it?" And I'm like,
yeah
"Me, dickhead."
yeah like uh it's so funny, but it was fun. I used to
Who's gonna be there?
I was gonna be yeah like where's the after party,
Yeah,
like like but we would go to I would just I go I don't need a ticket. I just show up with a six pack and sit in his dressing room and watch it on TV. It was like I was gonna watch it on TV at home with
yeah.
the same with a yeah. So I would wait for the after party and we would go out.
Who was the? Because you had sent me the stories, and I remember you put Paul McCartney on there. What was that like?
Oh yeah, that was legendary. So uh a friend of one of my Georgetown buddies was getting married, and we had the bachelor party this weekend. This one, so everyone came into town. That was from out of town. We had lunch. We all gathered and had lunch. Um, and the theory was, let's hit it hard at lunch, go back to our apartments or our hotels, kind of recharge, sleep it off, and then get like right back at it, for the evening festivities. So everyone like that sounds good. So everyone goes, but like you've already revved my engine. I'm sorry. So I went to two of my buddies. I'm like, you want to go see Chris? And I go, he goes, and these were big Beatles guys, fans, and I'm like, McCartney's up there, and like, yeah, let's go up there. So we just show up, like half in the bag,
And are you
and
just showing up to 30 Rock, like just walking in?
yeah, this is pre 9/11. Yeah,
Yeah.
those things happen, and as I said, I always like Chris would laugh as like, how did you get up here? It's like you just you
I
would
just walked up here.
no eye contact. You look like
Mhm.
you know what you're doing, or you're like if somebody looks like they're gonna stop you, you scowl. Like Chris loved the fact that you're such an asshole. Like like all right,
You're like, I know what I'm
yeah,
doing. I know how to
I
get
don't know
up
what I'm
here.
doing. So I get up there. And Chris was always so like I had two my he made whenever you were around friends, he made you look like you're the king of the world
That's awesome.
and the older brother. So he was giving us these other two guys this tour of 8H, and we go by this one door that's shut, and behind it we hear this muffled, "Hey Jude." He's practicing on the piano. I'm like, okay, I'm not moving till that door opens. And Chris just laughs. All right. So a few minutes later, Paul's done practicing, and the door opens, and he goes, "Hey, Paul, this is my brother Tommy. Oh, nice to meet you." So he looks at me, and he goes, the serious older brother. Yeah, I have me one of them too. And I'm like, oh, game on. Okay, you wanna fuck? I'm like, all right. I go, hey, Paul, Jagger was on last week. You got some big shoes to fill. He goes, yeah, that boy's been dogging me my whole career. And then I said, yeah, but this is SNL. Like, this could really make your career. And he's like, and Chris is like aghast at these
Oh my God, I'd be so angry.
cocky Georgetown guys showing up. And then my buddy
It's
Neil.
kind of a big deal, Paul. It's SNL. I don't know
Yeah,
if you know.
and then Neil chimes in. Yeah, yeah, but it's TV audience, maybe a little Grecian formula, cut the gray out a little bit. And Chris, that was it. Chris goes, "That's it." Like almost grabs me by the ear and like you're out of here. Like would you please go? And so we
Oh my
we
god.
leave, and and so that night we're at the bachelor party, and then we go. Somebody like, let's go to Scores. Okay, which is a strip club, like
Yeah.
upscale in New York, and that's kind of one of the things that's one of the vices I didn't really kind of. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm sitting there in the strip club, but they've got TVs everywhere. I'm watching the Ranger game. Just as long as I can continue drinking, and I'm watching the Ranger game, and this girl comes up, this lady comes up and goes, "You want to dance?" And I try to ignore her. She asked me a couple more times. And finally, I look at her. I go, "Sweetheart, I just spent the afternoon with Paul McCartney. Like you waving your chest in front of me is not going to make this day any better." And she's like, and then everyone around me looks like, "What did you do today?
Wait, where were you?
Where were you? Like I thought you were supposed to go home to nap." I'm like, "Nah, mm-mm."
I went and hung out with Paul, just kind of give
Yeah.
him a couple pointers. Mick Jagger's a tough follow, so I just wanted to make sure he was ready.
And the funny thing is, my friend Neil calls up. He was like, "Turn on Fallon now." I'm like, "Okay." So I like turn on Jimmy, and Spade's on, and he goes, "Yeah, I was supposed to go to a concert with Paul McCartney, but I'm doing this film for Adam, and Adam's such a workaholic, so he had this late night shoot that I missed the concert." And Jimmy goes, "Oh man, have you ever seen McCartney in concert?" It's like, "No, he was on our show once." Um, but the weird thing about that was like Farley's brother shows up like half the bags, and he's telling the story like it sounds like, whoa, he did what? Like, yeah, can you believe it? Like, Farley's brother and his buddies show up and starts giving him shit. I'm like,
That's awesome. The fact
that's
that it
me.
still lives on is
Yeah.
crazy. Because
I I blame the scotch.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't
right.
me.
That's not
Yeah.
yeah. What was the private plane hitchhiking? Because I just saw those three words and I was like, I
Ah.
don't even know what that means.
Oh man, half the stuff I would never have done without, I would never have the balls to do without yeah, without some encouragement. So
Yeah,
um freshman year at Georgetown, and this is Georgetown, so like everyone like having this kid from Wisconsin and all these trust fund kids around me, and they're all like it's 4-day Easter break, and they're all hopping on planes to go down to their like Palm Beach
yeah.
house. And we started, so my roommate Peter and I were like, all right, well, that's we can do this, and he goes, my dad in the military used to just hop on plane, hitchhike on planes. I'm like, let's do that. That's a great idea. Let's do that. And all our other friends that were staying on campus were like, you'll be in the pub tonight, shut up. And it backed us into a corner. I'm like, we got to go.
Now you
So
have to do it.
now
Yeah.
we got to do it. So we put on really nice clothes, our nice clothes, blue blazer pants, and we went to the private plane terminal, and we said, "Oh, we just got bumped off a plane. We got to get down to Florida for my sister's birthday tomorrow. Like, can somebody help us?" And this one guy goes, "Well, yeah, but I gotta go to Baltimore first. And if we, I got 4 seats open, and I don't know if I'm picking up 2 people or 4 people. If it's 4 people, I'm leaving you on the tarmac. But if it's 2 people, we're going down to Charleston. Is that good enough?" I'm like,
Perfect.
at the very least, we're in Baltimore, like out of sight, out of like,
At least you're
yeah,
not at the pub that night, so you
yeah,
can tell everybody
exactly.
you did it. Yep.
So we get on this plane, and they go, yeah, like, "Hey boys," and like, "You guys are great, have there's cocktails back there." And we're like, "Excuse me?" And we just went at it.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm going to shorten the story up a lot because I mean, it just keeps going. So we land in in Charleston and in this field out like an hour outside of Charleston, in this field and everyone is taking off in their cars that were meeting there. And this one guy goes, "You guys have no plan, right?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "All right, come to my house."
He
And it
read you
happened.
like a book.
Yeah,
You guys got nothing.
yeah, and he actually is the mayor of it's called Kingstree, South Carolina. He's the mayor of this little town, and he brings us back to his house, introduces us to his mom and his like, and he gets on the phone. It's like, there's the bar, and so we're like mixing up these gin drinks and these big tumblers and saying hi to the family, and he comes back in. It's like there's a flight down to Palm Beach that leaves in like an hour and a half and I reserved 2 seats for you. But you got to get there. So I just called a deputy. And next
What?
thing, we're in the back of the squad car, lights going like 90 miles an hour into Charleston Airport. Yeah, I go, what should we do with our drink? He goes, just leave them in the squad car. Yeah, can you freshen it up first? Yeah, it just so we're just laughing hysterically, and we get to the airport, and we're like he reserved 2 seats. What does that mean? Like, did he pay for them? So we get up, like we have reservations. Like, yes, that'll be like $200. Like, nah, never mind. Nah, not gonna do that.
So he just called and like booked,
Yeah,
like
just
didn't actually pay for it or anything, just
right.
booked the seat. Yeah.
So we go now. You know what? Decided not to. Is there a bar? Where's the closest bar? It's like, yeah, it's an hour down the street. Or I have a mile down the street. So we start walking, and we get to this bar that's going crazy. All these college kids, and we're like, let's figure it out. Let's at least in a atmosphere that we're comfortable with. And so we're in this bar trying to figure out what our next step is, and we hear this Peter and Tom. And we look around, and this is a friend of ours, Mitzi from Georgetown, who was home in Charleston. Was like, "What are you
Lives
doing
in
here?" It's like,
Charleston.
yeah, we're like,
Wow.
"I don't know." And she goes, "You just like, what do you hear?" Like, I don't know. And so we see her. I think we stayed one night with her, and then she was going to like Hilton Head or something, and Peter had a friend that he worked on the vineyard with one summer, the summer before. It's like, let's call his, see if he's home. And we call his parents. It's like, oh, he won't get home till tonight, but come on over. And they fed us, gave us
Wow.
gave us this map of here's a couple fun bars. Um, and and we went out drinking in Charleston. Um, yeah, it was crazy. And then like we got on another flight down to Jacksonville, I think. No, St. Petersburg.
Okay.
And we stayed there and we like it was just one thing after another. Finally, it
How do
was
you
get
end up getting back to Georgetown?
so we got one flight, the one flight that went north, and we went from St. Pete's to Jacksonville, and it just stopped. No one was going anywhere like
Mhm.
where we wanted. Like, and finally I said, all right, you know what? Enough of this. I went over to the Eastern Airline, ticket off like 2 tickets to Washington. And she goes, all right, yeah, flight's leaving in an hour. And get out my checkbook and I start writing, oh, we don't take checks.
Oh
And I'm
no.
like, I beg your pardon. And where I'm in still we're in a blue
Still in the blue
blazer.
blazer.
And I'm like, how dare you assert that I like this is no good. And she goes, all right, we'll take your check. So there was literally no money in that account. So like we got on, we got a meal. We were so
How
happy.
dare you?
How dare you? I had to call my father. Like, yeah, remember when I said I was going to hitchhike down to Florida and you told me you absolutely do not do that. I
Whoops.
did it. I did it. And can you put money in my account? Because I wrote a check. He's like, I knew exactly how this was going to play out. It's like, no, you knew the start and the end. What
You
happened in
don't have no idea what
between?
was going to happen in between.
I'm going to live off the rest of my life. And I told that story to my kids. My 2 girls live in Brooklyn, or in Manhattan in Brooklyn. And I was out there a couple, summers ago and I told them that story. They're looking at me like, what? Why have we never heard that story? Like, that's insane. I'm like,
The fact to just be like, yeah, let's just jump on a plane. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting though, the way you describe, because you tell your friends like, we're not going to be here tonight. We're not going to be at the bar. And then you end up at a bar that
Yeah.
night, just in a different state.
Just a completely different. Yeah. It like, yeah.
You're like, no, we're still going to go to a bar. We're just not going to go to the one here.
We got back to campus. The story got around. It got into the student newspaper. Like these two freshman idiots, like legend. We became legends overnight.
Yeah,
It was like,
that's,
and then we had to live up to that legend, of course,
yeah.
which we did.
Very good. There we
Yeah,
go. Tom, this was so much fun, man. Thank you so much for coming
yeah.
on.
This
This,
was, yeah, it is good. But all that, and and again, these are great stories. But what we don't really talk enough about is like, the next day or two after
Mhm.
those stories are always painful, and um, I think I try to remember those as much, and the pain. It wasn't just my physical pain, but like the disappointment, like in a lot of people, there's a lot of, and we just didn't do the damage control at all, because we're
That
like,
is, yeah, because that's the one thing. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that is the one thing I love about doing this show, is because I'm obsessed with like little details. So everyone's like, oh, yeah. A lot of times I'll have a guest on and they'll be like, yeah, and then it was fun. And then that was it. And I go, well, no, what happened the next day? And it's like a constant reminder for me, especially of like,
yeah,
oh, no, like it sounds fun. Like I tell the stories about getting arrested and like going to these big parties and stuff. And it sounds fun. But then you're like, yeah, now like I'm the asshole. Like I have to wake up and deal
yeah.
with this the next day. And I'm just, fortunate, as are you, as are a lot of the people that listen. Like I don't ever have to wake up the next day and be like,
Oh
shit.
man, because we crave that connection, and
Mhm.
that was a reminder of like, no, you're not alone. You're a human that's connected to people, and when you mess that up, it's uncomfortable. And like, how many times did I have to learn that lesson? It was uh somebody, one of our friends in my book described this, with Chris, is like drinking with Chris. The first hour was fun. The second hour was probably the best time you'll ever have in your life. The third through 10, however long until he falls down, hours were brutal,
Yeah.
miserable for the everyone around. The collateral damage just increased, and that was totally the same for me. And we didn't
Same
realize.
for me. My experience as
Yeah,
well. I
yeah, it was
was I was
great.
everyone's best. Like I said, I would get sent to bed after the second hour because they'd be like, Brennan's gonna be too much. Send him downstairs. Like that was
Yeah,
just first 2 hours, we're having a good time. But then by that third hour, it was like, get rid of him, get him out of here.
yeah,
Because I burned so many, I broke so many things. And not even
and
just materialistically, like metaphorically too, just people's trust, people's faith in me, just shattered all that.
and all we wanted to do was connect. That's
Yep.
all we wanted to do, and yet we didn't know how to do it, or we were fearful about being authentic and honest. And so what we ended up doing is pushing people away. The absolute opposite of what we really wanted, and we couldn't figure it out.
Yep.
Why are people walking away, when that's, I'm trying so hard not to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're here now. We're doing it now.
Yeah, boy, the connection and recovery, that authentic self, what I used to say when I was putting out this false person, this inauthentic person, um, how could that person ever be, as we say in recovery, rigorously honest or
Mhm.
grateful or humble? Because it wasn't a real person. Like
Yep.
that's where I was struggling with, like, but now I know how this person is works on being honest, works on being grateful. Um, because I'm working with the real deal, not some phony person I'm putting out to the world that I think they want to see.
Yep. It's all about rigorous honesty, being honest with yourselves, being honest with
Yeah,
myself.
start. Yeah, it's great.
Dude, I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on, Tom.
this was fun.
Plug everything one more time. Recovery.com, the Chris Farley Show. Everybody check out everything.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, which is I think I don't know, find me on LinkedIn, Thomas Farley maybe. And I talk a lot about my journey, a lot about my thoughts of it's me being rigorously honest. So that's been a good place for me to talk about the work I do, because I'm the greatest example of why it's important, why recovery works, you know. So
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, so much for
the
listening.
best.
This was a lot of fun, man.
Uh,
At BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the tour dates coming up. We'll talk to everybody next week.